of America, and they don't like most of the Trump voters because they are Americans. And De Niro, how stupid is he without a script? Isn't that amazing? I used to think, wow, that guy's brilliant. But once you take the words away from him, he is so stupid.
What about the garbage outside today? Robert De Niro, officially sent by the Biden campaign, makes himself look like an idiot and reminds us why Trump is so popular.
It's so stupid. It was colossally stupid. If you're going to send...
What happens when a towering screen legend and name once welded to cinematic greatness and relentless intensity begins to unravel in full public view? The question hangs heavy, especially when that figure has lived for decades inside our cultural memory as the measuring stick for greatness, when the man who once defined grit, danger, and unstoppable presence for an entire generation suddenly steps away from the cold, focused glare that made him iconic and instead climbs onto a loud political stage. Everything changes, the admiration slowly begins to fracture, the applause fades, and in its place come the jokes, the ridicule, the sharp criticism, and just like that, a legacy that once felt untouchable is dragged into the open, questioned, debated, and pulled apart while the world watches.
We'll make America great again, and everybody's how intellectually deprived he is. He's a coke-addled simpleton, without a script. It is hysterical.
Does he have a big coke problem?
I just read that article that you sent me about the last nights of John Belushi and how De Niro was there and just basically partied with him and then split. And it's just like, that's now I just think of him as a really stupid.
Robert De Niro, just hearing the name once summoned images burned into the history of cinema: the haunted, restless stare of Travis Bickle, the volcanic fury of Jake LaMotta, the cold, calculating shadow of Vito Corleone. For decades he stood at the absolute peak of the craft, a master of transformation, a performer who did not simply play characters but became them completely, a true chameleon who vanished into roles so deeply that audiences forgot the actor and saw only the living, breathing soul of the character in front of them.
You're going to send somebody to go speak outside of the Trump trial. Make it someone who's universally beloved, like a Michelle Obama. She's not universally loved. She's not loved on the right. But I'm saying, like, at least within the left and the center left, and maybe even some center righties. Robert De Niro has gone so hard partisan over the past 8 years. He is like example number one of Trump derangement syndrome. He's one of those, I'm moving to Canada if he wins, and he's never going to leave the White House if he wins. We're going to have Trump forevermore. I mean, hello, I hate to break it to you because I realize you're advanced age too, Robert, but people die. So he will leave. One way or the other.
On screen, even his silence carried weight. Sometimes his quiet stare felt more dangerous than any explosion or gunshot. His discipline was legendary, his focus almost mythic, his dedication to the craft unmatched across generations. But in recent years, a very different version of Robert De Niro has emerged into the spotlight, one far removed from the calm, controlled intensity that once defined him. This newer persona is louder, more volatile, openly political, and increasingly surrounded by controversy.
Last night, an elderly, confused man went missing in New York. Luckily, a band of self-satisfied elitists found him babbling on the street, threw some pants on him, gave him a stage.
Oh my God.
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
The real issue is not that his acting ability has disappeared. By many standards, it still commands respect. The deeper problem lies in the tone and style of his public appearances. What were once rare moments outside the world of film have turned into frequent emotionally charged political speeches, often aimed squarely at a single figure. As those speeches multiplied, the reaction began to shift. Cheers slowly transformed into confusion and, for many viewers, outright disdain. His most widely discussed performances are no longer unfolding on movie screens. Instead, they are unscripted emotional eruptions broadcast across television cameras and social media, leaving audiences unsure whether they are witnessing conviction, frustration, or something far more complicated.
Number 2, Robert De Niro. Congratulations, sir. Another Oscar for the iconic actor who, now 80, appeared on Bill Maher over the weekend and had some choice words about Donald Trump.
The guy is a total monster. And anybody, I don't understand it. I guess they get behind that kind of logic.
That could be tough for an actor to play such a hateful, hateful man. Someone like, I don't know, like Bernie Madoff, say. A guy who stole $65 billion from nuns and Holocaust survivors like Elie Wiesel and was sentenced to 150 years.
For many observers, the turning point arrived with one disastrous public moment that captured the changing mood sent reportedly by allies of Joe Biden to appear outside the trial of Donald Trump. Robert De Niro delivered a long, heated speech that many felt hurt his own message more than it helped. Instead of the controlled force people once associated with his greatest performances, audiences saw what looked like a frustrated man shouting into a storm, his words lacking the precision and authority that once defined him. The visual impact was rough. Commentators quickly pointed out that the moment appeared chaotic, even embarrassing. One critic bluntly argued that the appearance made him look foolish and unintentionally reminded people why Donald Trump continues to command such fierce loyalty among his supporters. The moment was quickly labeled a spectacular misfire.
Kills me. Talk about persuasive. Really, I was on the fence about Trump, but then I decided to really listen to one of the great generational leaders of American pop culture, and the clenched fists at the end, that really drove it home. It looked like he was pressing a 2-pound weight in a Jenny Craig commercial.
Oh my God.
Look at it again. It's so cute. It's like he found out the restaurant serves Jell-O, or that he won a $10 scratch off, or he scored a cameo in Jersey Shore, or he had his first #2 in a week. Thank you, Fibercon. What a sad for a great actor. He went from Raging Bull to this.
Almost overnight, that single moment transformed into a symbol. Critics began pointing to it as proof of what they called his so-called Trump derangement syndrome, arguing that anger toward Donald Trump had completely overtaken his public identity. In their view, Robert De Niro had shifted from respected artist to partisan attack figure, the living embodiment of celebrity outrage that promised dramatic reactions if Donald Trump ever returned to power. To them, he became the face of an elite Hollywood class viewed as distant from everyday reality. When he suggested that Donald Trump might never truly leave the White House even after death, critics seized on the comment as proof that emotional outrage had begun to overpower rational judgment, and unlike a fleeting gaffe, this moment refused to disappear. Instead, it became constant fuel for critics already waiting for an opening. One late-night satirist in particular was more than ready, sharpening his humor and preparing to turn the entire spectacle into comedy.
Robert De Niro, who's got a severe case of the TDS, is in conference right now, as all of the muckety mucks are. And he's very unhappy about what Trump is doing to try to keep filmmaking, American filmmaking, in America by slapping tariffs on foreign-made films so that he can basically try to force people to make them domestically again for the American audience that they're meant to serve. And here's what De Niro said on Tuesday.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions.
Enter Greg Gutfeld, the late-night host known for wielding a sharp, unapologetic comedic blade, always eager to attack what he views as Hollywood arrogance and fading celebrity influence. Greg Gutfeld wasted no time targeting the public appearances of Robert De Niro. With visible delight, he framed the legendary actor not as a serious political voice but as a confused older man shouting on a random street corner nothing was off limits. Greg Gutfeld mocked the furious hand gestures, joking that they resembled someone squeezing a tiny dumbbell in a diet commercial. The jokes landed hard. The legendary Raging Bull image once attached to Robert De Niro was flipped upside down, recast as the sad final chapter of a once dominant career. His political speeches no longer sounded like powerful conviction, but instead like the desperate flailing of a star whose greatest era had faded sometime around the age of floppy disks.
Poor Bob. You know, he's like a star whose girlfriend dumps him for a bigger star who's in the White House while you're in Dirty Grandpa. Oh, man. So now the resistance is reduced to applauding tantrums. Who knew De Niro's lasting role would be irrelevant gas bag pleasing irrelevant peers? And he's doing this as Trump organizes a summit. Not a war, a summit. And you got to wonder, if it were President Hillary, Bob's choice, would you actually have a summit? Or would you have a war? But forget deeds. What matters is adulation received from an emotional display before a packed sea of millionaire lemmings. So who cares that Trump meets with North Korea? It's no meet the parents, right?
But the real argument from Greg Gutfeld went deeper than simple comedy. In his telling, the issue was not age and not even politics, it was dignity. He pointed to what he described as a transformation from an intimidating symbol of raw, no-nonsense toughness into something that now felt closer to parody. In Greg Gutfeld's version of events, the once terrifying screen presence had somehow become about as threatening as a teddy bear with a messy haircut. His conclusion was blunt: the louder Robert De Niro tried to remain politically relevant, the more he risked turning himself into a punchline instead of a respected voice. And while Greg Gutfeld used humor to dismantle the public image, another powerful voice within the media world was preparing a very different critique, one less focused on jokes and far more interested in examining what this entire situation revealed about the uneasy collision between celebrity influence politics and the modern public stage.